Welcome to Laughter for All. It's the podcast with comedian Nazareth.
Well, hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am comedian Nazareth, and thank you for joining me for episode 247. Yes, 247 here in Southern California, where it is beautiful weather. And listen, the worst thing that can happen in California is an earthquake or a fire. And all you have to do when you see someone after a natural disaster in California is to say, "Are you okay?" This doesn't happen in other states. Other states, you are waiting. You're anxiously waiting for the storm to come, for the hurricane to happen, for the tornado to hit, for the hailstorm to come and destroy you. That's what you have to do. So, um, as bad as California, especially now we're having the LA stuff going on. So anyway, I just all this to say is like, you know what? California is okay. All right. So the reason I emphasize that because I left the beautiful state, Ohio. As you guys know, I came into this country. I went to University of Toledo, Ohio. I lived in Ohio for a few years, and then moved to California the last 30 some years. Anyway, so last weekend I was at the Night Vision Festival, the big festival in Grand Junction, Colorado, and we had different artists like Blessing Offer, who's a really up and coming great artist, great music. I worked with him. We did a radio concert up in Sacramento, California, a year ago, and he was scheduled to come. Jeremy Camp is a great guy. I love Jeremy. Worked with him many times. Jeremy was supposed to headline that Friday night, and boom, what happened is a hailstorm just came in. I mean, this is not a storm. This is like Sodom and Gomorrah, but without the fire. I mean, it was really big balls of, I've never seen it before, big balls of hail, snow just hit you. It hit me a couple times on the head while I was running to my trailer. The people were running. We told everybody there was like 10,000 people in the field. That's like, run to your cars. Some people end up getting hurt. Everybody ran to their car, and we canceled the show because our sound systems, our stage, everything got hit hard, the screens. So we canceled the Friday show. And then Saturday morning, we resumed with our headliner for the night was Crowder. And also we have Taya that used to be with Hillsong. She wrote the song, what do you call it? Oceans. And who else we had? We had KB. He was amazing. KB was a great guy. And then before that, we have a new younger upcoming artist. Her name is Terrian. I'm messing up shopping her name. Terrian. Really a young up and coming. So a great, and Bob Lenz was the speaker. It was a great, great festival. And I came home Sunday night. And anyway, so I'm here. And if you want to know where I'm going to be next, go to my website, nazarethusa.com. Also, I want to encourage you to subscribe to this podcast. And also, I want to encourage you to, if you're not on Instagram, if you're on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, Comedian Nazareth, I'd like to get to have you on it so you know where I'm going to be. Anyway, enough of that. The reason I share Ohio is because my new friend, a comedian named Dan Brown, is from Ohio, and he his Dan, he was raised in Cleveland, Ohio. His journey took off in the Buckeye State since his start in the Ohio funniest amateur comedian in Akron in 2010. Dan has become one of the most hardworking and determined comedians in the country. Dan combines his real life observations and experiences into a performance that is honest and insightful that all audience can relate to and laugh at. Dan talks about life from the perspective of a father, a family man, relations, and laughing through life as a wannabe superhero. Dan is a favorite at comedy clubs, theaters, corporate events, and all over the US. His dry bar comedy special, Not Shopping Here Today, was released in October 2021 during the pandemic. That was difficult, but it did. And by the way, I got to tell you, this morning I was walking and started listening to it. This guy is funny. And I'm telling you, you know me, I don't throw that, lightly. He's funny. The guy is funny and he's clean. Then appeared on the television show Huckabee on TBN in April 2022. He headlined the Finger Lakes Comedy Festival in Ithaca, whatever you say it, New York. He headlined it. I don't care what the name of the town. You don't think of that when you're on stage. 2023, Dan performed for Whirlpool, a Fortune 200 company in Walt Disney Resort. All right. So please welcome my new friend, Dan Brown. Hello, Dan.
Hello, thank you for having me on. This is
Yes.
awesome.
Thank you. So you're in Cleveland.
I am in Cleveland. Yes, that's
And
correct.
uh, how many times have you been to Cedar Point?
Over the course of 37 years, it's got to be in the 40s. I would assume at this point.
That's funny. I went to school in Ohio. I had few businesses in Ohio by the Lake Erie, and I loved it. It was too cold for my parents when they came in, so we had to leave. So let's see. So you're born and raised in Cleveland. Is anybody in your family like parents were funny?
I mean, they're funny people. Like my parents were absolutely funny people. They were the lives of the party wherever they went, but they weren't
Okay.
exactly, stand-up comedy funny. At least that's the way how
No,
I
no, no. I know what you're
relate to it.
saying. I'm
Yeah, Yeah, no, my
yeah,
dad my dad was definitely a funny guy, always joking around. My mom, very funny woman, also joking around as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, your typical fun parents.
when did you know, like, hey, I'm funny. I can do this.
Probably around high school is when I first started realizing, like, hey, I'm making a lot of people laugh. And I think that's what a lot of comedians say is, "Oh, I was in high school as a class clown." I was never really the class clown kind of guy. I was just very personable with my group of friends. Um, and so right around high school is when I noticed I'm like, okay, I can definitely be the fun guy. I can definitely be the one that makes people laugh, the one to kind of loosen up the the tense situation.
Right.
Um, as for when I started thinking I could do stand up comedy, that was in college.
In college, okay. Yeah, you know what? Then I think people think that comedians were the clown. No, comedians were
No,
not the class clowns. We're the ones that made fun of the class clown, or we said but no, what everything we said in class was funny, made people laugh quietly, but we were not the clown. So I can get,
exactly.
yeah, I can get that. So you went to what did you go to college at?
I went to Cleveland State University.
Cleveland State, and did you do like open mic? No, like talent nights during the school year, or no?
So I started my senior year at Cleveland State. That's when I started doing stand up is in 2010. And one of the first shows I ever did was a comedy contest at Cleveland State. It was probably like before I thought it was like my second or third show. After reviewing some footage and looking at the timeline, it was probably like my sixth or seventh show. I don't know exactly when, but
Right.
I would say yeah, sixth or seventh show, I did a contest. They were looking for the funniest student in Cleveland State. Most of the students were like me, either done it a few times or have never done it before.
Uh-huh.
And I got booed off stage by by a large group of my peers, easily probably 150 people.
Uh-huh.
One of the worst nights of my life. Uh, I will still stand by and say it was the worst night of my comedy career. Single, single,
And you still kept going.
I
That's good.
still kept going. I felt like, you know, it can't get much worse than this. Granted, as time goes on, it does get worse. Uh, but that that was a really like, I don't know if you've ever gotten to a fight or if you've any done any kind of impact sports or anything like that or contact sports. I used to wrestle when I was in high school. So it's one of those things where after you get your butt kicked really bad, you're really not that afraid to get your butt kicked anymore because you know what it feels like, kind of thing. Especially if you
Right.
get hurt. Like I had my freshman year, I had my shoulder dislocate in a I had 5 matches. It dislocated in my second match, and this is why it's important why we have doctors at schools to tell that for athletics, because this event I don't think had a doctor, and I went back out there and I wrestled 3 more matches. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm working out now, and all of a sudden, like, my shoulder will just give out, and part of me thinks like, "Hey, I wonder how much of that has to do with when I was 14 years old and somebody was just like, ah, go back out there, kid, rub some dirt on it."
Oh my
But
lord.
so that was my comedy equivalent of dislocating my shoulder in my second match.
That's not funny. So okay, so you kept going, which is good. That's what keeps makes a good real comic. It's like, okay, I bombed today. That's fine. I take the blame. It's not the
Yeah.
audience. It's me, or it could be the audience, and then you go on. And then, w- so you went in, and then you did the competition, and you won that competition in Akron, Ohio, and then.
No, actually, I did the contest, but I never actually won it.
Oh, okay, you did the.
That's where actually I just got my real start. Yeah, I did my real start in the contest. Um, I can't say once in a while a new comedian will come to me because that's my home club in funny stuff, and I'll tell them this contest means as much as you want it to mean or as little because I
Mm,
never won. And I mean, I'm not trying to big shot anyone here, but I've been on Dry Bar, I've been on television, I've gotten to do some
yeah.
really cool things in comedy, and I never won that contest. I never, I don't think I've ever won a contest, quite frankly. And there's a lot of people who have beat me in contests that, quite frankly, that was their biggest
They're not doing
achievement.
comedy. Yeah.
And they're not doing comedy, and sometimes you hate to see that happen, but it's more of kind of going back to what we were saying. It's more about taking those hits, learning to bomb. Okay, that stunk. Let's dust yourself off. You gotta go do it again.
And that's great then, because I mean, people don't understand that comedy is show business. You gotta have the business part. You gotta learn,
Yeah,
know how to market yourself, how to, be network with people, how to be presentable to agents and everything. And then, it's not just being funny. Everybody can be, and you know what? Social media proved that anybody can be funny for a minute. Anybody can be funny for a minute, two
yep,
minutes. But then, can you do that consistently? Can you go on stage when your wife is just sick or your baby is sick and still do make people laugh and go home? That's the thing that makes a difference. And I just want to, because I wanted this episode to be about encouraging people who, in different ways, people who really think, oh, well, I'm too busy, I don't have a life, I'm working, my wife is working, I have kids, I can't do what I dream of doing, what I love to do. And you are a living example of someone who had all that and still did it. So that's one thing I want to focus on. Number two, if you tried something you love and the first time and it doesn't work, or the second time doesn't work, doesn't mean you're not good at it. Doesn't mean you can't have a career in it. What it means is just like, and
yes,
that's what Dan is saying, that you gotta be, tough skinned, and you gotta try it one, two, three, four times. Now, there's some people are still doing comedy that should have quit long time ago, but I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, for you,
yeah.
so that's awesome that you did that. So okay? So you went, you kept going on stage. When was the first time you got paid?
I don't remember the exact date, but it was. Let's see if I started in late March, early April of 2010. It was in January 2011.
January 20.
And it was some bar show with a bunch of local comedians. I am straight edge. That comes from if you really want to get detailed, it comes from the punk rock scene in the 80s, people that don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, any of that kind of stuff. So it's actually punk rock. Um, I'm straight edge. I don't do any of that stuff. So if somebody goes, "Oh, hey, we're doing this show in a bar," especially back when I was in my early 20s and I'm not familiar with the bar scene, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And I invite family and friends out to the sketchiest side of town that you could. I mean, every place, like every building around there, is like boarded up and
Uh,
everything. And I was like, "Man, this is great. I'm going to make my first $10." And I know people that still have their first like physical dollar that was handed
uh-huh.
to them in comedy. I don't.
I spend it too. $10.
I spent it exactly. That was my reward, and I get why some people keep it as a trophy, or the metaphorical trophy for themselves, or the mental trophy, whatever you want to call it. Man, I had to take that. I earned that money. That's my money to spend. That was my way of thinking about it. So, is it a place called Rock Bar that's not open anymore? It was predominantly a concert
Uh-huh.
bar. But yeah, that was my first time, January 2011.
That's amazing. So for people, there's some comedians who watch this podcast. As okay, uh, performing in a bar is a completely different than performing in a comedy club. It's completely different than performing in a
Yes.
church. Completely different than performing in a what do you call it, in a festival. So sometimes, like for
Yeah.
example, let's say you take someone who's a football, a basketball player, and then you take him and put him on a muddy field, and then you take him, you put him on an ice. I mean, he's still a great basketball player, but now the whole dynamic changes. So that's what happened. Tell us, what is it like? Because you're a clean comic, you do clean. What was it
Yeah.
like performing in a bar, in those rowdy, loud? I mean, I've done bars long time ago, but I want to hear it from you.
Um, it's difficult to say this is exactly how it is, because I've had very good shows in a bar, and if anyone's going to take away anything from this episode, it is that I am far from a perfect person, and even at 37, there's still things that I'm looking to discover for myself, and I lose my way, and um I get angry and I get bitter, and I do the finger pointing, it's your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, before I turn it around and put it on myself. So if anyone listening to this is going to take away anything from me, I hope that someone out there like me listens to this and goes, okay, then this kind of helped. Like, this kind of recentered
Right.
me. But in a bar, I can be very uncomfortable,
Mm,
because that's not my world. And if it is your world and you can drink responsibly, more power to you. And if it's you're a comedian or an artist or something and that is your world, I'm happy for
right.
you. It's just, it's not mine. um I, Starting out, the way how I view it, you got
You're
to do
gonna
the
do.
bars. You have to, you got to do the open mics and whatnot. A few years ago, when I was just hitting the road nonstop as much as I can, I'm going to leave this person's name out of it because it doesn't, you
Help.
know, it doesn't help anybody to bring anyone down right now. But I was doing some shows for this guy, and they were all bar shows. And the first one went great, and then they kept slowly declining in
Uh,
quality. And I'm driving 9 hours to a show, and I brought my dog with me so I can have some
mm,
companionship. And I'm like, okay, if I put these two shows together, I can make some money off of it. And I'm 8 hours into my 9 hour drive when I get the phone call that the venue double booked and our show's canceled.
ah,
And
ah,
I'm like, dude, I already bought my hotel for the weekend or for the night. I got my dog with me, so it's not like I can just turn around. It routed well with the show the next
right.
night, you know. So the next night, I go to the bar, the next bar where we're at, and there's free range chickens just right out in front of the bar, and I was just like, this is terrible. And I walk in, and the place is empty.
Ah,
And again, it's one of those things, and they're like, okay, well, we decided to push the show back another hour, and I kind of negotiated to where it's like, no, we're only going to push it back 30 minutes because it's not my fault.
right.
This event happened. I'm I love my dogs. They're right next to me on the toddler bed right here. And it's one thing for me to leave them at home because that's
Yeah,
their home too. But if I'm leaving my dog in a hotel room by herself, I'm gonna feel really bad, kind of thing,
right,
because she doesn't understand what's going
right.
on. And it's just a bar setting, and the guy who went up before me is a really nice guy, and he was like, I cleaned up my acts for some of for you. Don't
Uh,
worry. And 5 minutes in, he's just being completely vulgar. And I was like, "Man, if this is your clean act, I'd hate to see what you're doing
For dirty,
what you're
yeah,
doing on dirty
right,
night."
right. Oh man,
And it was one of those things where I go back to the hotel room that night, I'm fuming with anger. And it was one of those things where I just went, "If I did not work this weekend, I would be in the exact same position in comedy where I currently am right now. Except I'd be a lot less frustrated. I'd be sleeping in my own
uh,
bed. I'd be playing with my kids in the morning, and just life would be a million times easier than it would be
but
right now."
I disagree with you. I'll tell you why.
What's that?
Because you did that. Because see, sometimes God allows, and I always give God credit, allows things like that to happen to make us appreciate the easier one. And it makes
Yeah,
us more tough skin and tolerable to deal with Asians and to deal with gigs that got canceled or delayed. I used to hate it when someone canceled a show. I'm like, to me, it was like that was rent. That was that
yeah,
was half of my mortgage. If you can, and they canceled last minute. But the thing is, like, they're not bar owners; they're pastors. It's like, oh, the Lord told me we need to move the date. Well, He didn't tell me. So I know what you're saying,
yeah.
and it's frustrating, and it's all that, and then some people don't pay you. I know the feeling, but it makes you a better comic. Trust me, because what would be your ideal gig, ideal place to perform?
Ideally, just a theater
Right,
of people who paid money to come see
right,
me. And this is something I've tried telling, corporate owner, like for
yeah,
corporate gigs, is that you turn on Netflix or you turn on Comedy Central and you see that hour-long special that just made you're at home on the couch bending over laughing, slapping your knee. This would be great. We should do this in our conference room. And it's like, well, what you don't see or what you don't understand is that this was shot at a stadium or a theater or a comedy club or a church in some of these situations, or it was shot at a venue where people came, paid money to
yeah,
see that particular
exactly.
act
Yeah.
perform. Everything was well lit. And it was also shot across the course of between 2 to like 6
Yes.
shows.
And they ask
Sometimes.
the people to
It
laugh and they
wasn't.
sweeten the laughter and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, and now you want me to come to your office on a Tuesday at noon, and half the people there hate their jobs, hate some of the people they work with, are overworked, underpaid. And for those people who are underpaid who don't understand, how much we get paid, they might think, man, this company's paying this guy $10,000. And I want to tell you, I wish they were paying me that much. But some of them in the back
They
of their
think
mind are
like that.
thinking, I was like, you're paying this guy when that money could have went towards raises or better equipment for us or anything. So it sounds like a great idea to have a comedian, and it can be. I've had some really fun corporate gigs, but you really need to set it up. Like, let me help you have the best
Right,
show possible.
right, right. Let me ask you this. So you started doing comedy and you're going at it and you are going to the open mics and you're driving 8, 9 hours and stuff to get this. What made you say, oh, I want to get married and have more responsibility?
I um I was once previously
Hmm.
engaged, and I got engaged too young, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Some people get engaged young and it works out well, good for them. Um, I I was not mentally or emotionally mature enough yet to make that
Right.
decision, and it was actually before I started doing stand
Okay.
up. And it was one of those things where, now I've fallen in love with this new thing that I'm doing, and the differences between me and this other person are much more
Right.
apparent, kind of thing. And I tried dating, and I tried the dating websites and whatnot, um, and it's very difficult for somebody to come into this world, of me constantly being on the road or me going, I when I started taking comedy a lot more seriously and I started doing the road before I met my wife, and even something I told my wife when we first started getting serious too was, if we get to the point where, um, you know, I have to choose between you or comedy, I'm going to choose you, but I might not have a choice. Like that. And that's very difficult for a person to understand.
Right.
And, especially those first gigs that you're getting when you're paid. I don't know if I mentioned this to someone else, but I'll just mention it here. I would describe comedy as the pirate ship, where
Mm,
there's a reason why you didn't see many women on the pirate ships in those old pirate movies, because there's a it's an ugly world. It can be an ugly world, I should say.
yeah.
It can be a very ugly world with a lot of degenerates, that I'm putting myself in. And if there's somebody I care about, I might not want them to have to experience that whole degenerate world too.
Yeah.
kind of
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
um it's, and it came across, and like I look at the relationships that people in my life have, and like the ones who have been successful. And I signed up for Christian Mingle, met my wife,
Uh-huh.
um and the best thing I can do is to just be honest about what I'm doing,
Right.
if that makes sense.
That
It's
makes sense.
to keep you, to let you know, like, hey, I'm 5 hours away in the next town over. I'm just texting, calling, communicating. Oh, hey, I'm going to run out and go get Subway. Just to let you know, one, in the event of something horrible happening, you have a also
Mm,
just having somebody who understands what I'm going through, and
mm,
understands what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it is.
yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna get emotional. My wife's gonna be
No,
like, "You
that's
never get
good. Just
emotional
stay
around."
in this
It's
stay in this pause. Come closer.
yeah,
Stay in this pause because that's the clearest
yeah.
facial. Yeah, that's perfect. The
Um,
closer you are, the better I can. I want to see you cry. Go ahead.
no, my my wife doesn't always understand everything I'm doing with comedy, but she puts that trust and faith into me that I'm doing what I believe is right. And she's somebody who has uh, stuck with me through some awful shows, to cheerleading me into my best shows, who has seen me at my worst and who has seen me at my best.
Mm,
And uh, I can she is super wife. She is super mom.
mm.
Uh, she could be a little bit nicer to my beagle. Um, when my beagle gets on her nerves,
Uh,
you know, we
y-
all she gets on my
I
nerves
love
too.
that.
That's my baby.
I love that about you. I'll tell you what. She's made the right decision because when I met my wife came from the Holy Land, never seen stand up comedy, doesn't know what stand up comedy means.
Yeah,
But when we got married, and I was at the time, right when we first got married, the first few months, I was doing tax accounting, getting paid very well at a corporate tax accountant, and I lost. They laid me off for no reason, gave me 6 months severance pay, and I went to her. I said, "Listen, I just got to get off. New bride, just married." I said, "Hey, I lost my job, but they're gonna pay me for 6 months. I can get a job tomorrow with my credential." But she goes, "No, honey, go do what you love to do, because I'd
yeah,
rather have a broke comedian who's happy than a tax accountant, wealthy tax accountant who's miserable."
that's
So
awesome.
that's the best thing your wife did is allow. And sometimes our wives lives on our hope. Like we're hoping, oh, the next thing, next year I'll be doing this big, and next year I'll be bringing this money, and next year we'll be going here, and that's just the hope. And she lives off your hope.
Yeah,
And sometimes, a lot of times in our business, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of put your hope up and then boom, it doesn't happen. Put your hope up and then they book someone else. Put your hope up and then they cancel the show or the event. So it's just neat. So you got married. Tell us about. You love superheroes, and I heard your marriage was different. Tell us about what happened.
So my wife is not a comic book nerd, not nearly to the level that I am.
Okay.
Um, and I might get a little choked up. And again, my wife's going to be watching this and be like, "How come you never like this around the house? You're always just, okay, whatever." Uh, but um,
Are you trying to gain points with her, trying to be emotional so you can get points or make up for stuff you
no,
did
no,
wrong
I
earlier?
just
Okay.
well, I might even mention something else here too, to kind of give you a little backstory of where I'm currently at right now. But my wife wanted to have um, a Batman themed wedding, which we did, and Batman's my favorite superhero. And yeah, it's
I
how can
love
you not love
Batman.
him?
I don't like Superman. Batman was my man.
Well, they filmed Superman in Cleveland here, and Superman's
Oh,
my
okay.
number two. But so and I asked her 100 times. I was like, please don't just have a Batman themed wedding because you think it's what I want. I'm like, I want to make sure like it's as I say, it's your special day. It's every girl dreams about her marriage. I never really dreamed about what my wedding would look like. Um, and she was insistent, no, with a Batman themed wedding, Batman themed wedding. And the only thing that I said was our reception is going to be a party. you know, it's how many times you go to a reception where it's beautiful but it's boring. And
Yeah.
um so we made sure we had a lot of fun. We had it at the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. They had a nice hall there. Um and
At the zoo.
people came people came by and they got to pet some animals. It was cool. We had somebody like we had a snake handler. People got to feel a snake and a armadillo and stuff. And
What were you dressed like?
so for the wedding and the reception was very formal, very, classy. We used to belong to this group called Superheroes to Kids in Ohio, which would visit kids in hospitals and kids facing
Mm.
adversities and dressed as superheroes. And the president of the group, Brian Shulick, let me use his Batman suit. Very special video where I saved my wife as Batgirl from the villains of Gotham. And we shot it guerrilla style, no permits or anything. We went out to a public park one day, a dozen of us or so went out there and we filmed a short little 5-minute movie that's on my buddy Mark Mackay's channel because he's the filmmaker that produced it. Um,
Uh,
and we told nobody about it. So
uh-huh.
at the reception, for the first time ever, please welcome, hey, for the first, Dan and Tracy Brown, come on. And again, not there. And then he gets a phone call and he goes, um, oh, we got a call from the commissioner here. You know, we got a video from the Joker. Let's see it. And then they play the video. And then we come in like taking off our mask at that point. So it was an
Oh,
awesome
that's
experience. And then my wife explained uh, that she wanted a Batman wedding because as we got we took a we took a trip and she was like, why Batman? And I explained that you don't need superheroes to be a good person and you don't need superheroes to do the right thing. And she said when I said that is when she realized that I was the person for her.
oh, that's
Is
awesome.
that yeah. And
So you got
yeah,
married.
it was a very special night for many reasons. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so you got married. You have 3 kids now, right? All under the age of what?
3 kids,
How old?
6 and under.
6 and under. So 3 kids, 6 and under.
My oldest is 6. Yeah,
And then your wife has two
yeah, my
jobs.
oldest is 6.
Uh-huh.
3. She has 2 jobs. Yeah.
Okay. How do you balance your comedy career with you have a full-time job and she has two jobs and you have
Yeah.
3 kids under 6? Tell me, how do you balance your life?
At some points, I'm going to make a wrestling reference here. if you know anything about tag team wrestling, only one person
Yes, I do.
can, per team can be in the ring at a time. So a
Right.
lot of it is tag, you're in, I'm out kind of thing. Um, the important thing about it, it's when we get these moments together and trying to take full advantage of those moments that we have together. Um,
Mm,
making sure that we're present and in the moment. And something I've had an issue with is with comedy. I'm stuck to having my phone next to me at all times, and I'm constantly checking it, and
right.
I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram, and I'm looking for new shows, or I'm constantly refreshing my emails, just hoping that somebody sees me. um sh- I'll say, like, she does a much better job at keeping me grounded. um like I said, she's super wife. She's um she thinks about all these, you know these nice extra things to do. She got us into painting by number, where it was just like, we'll have a date night at home. You're not doing comedy, I'm not working. you know uh and we just spent a couple hours at the table just talking to each other, painting, and just
Mm,
allowing us to be with each other. it, it, it's it's one of those things where I uh I was at the CCA.
right.
Can
First
can I
time,
tell this
right?
first time?
Yeah, tell
And
that story because we started the CCA, me and a
yeah,
group of comedians, and praise God, we did because now we're hearing this. Go ahead.
and I was listening to this one seminar with JT Clark and his wife Terry.
Okay.
Um, got to meet them both. I don't know if you know who they are, but their story inspired a film that's going to be on TBN. And I went into this weekend, to the weekend of the CCA, very negative, like in a very negative mind space about comedy and just kind of life. And, looking at my summer calendar and how there's a lot of holes, and I'm just angry because it's like you said, you get some of these bookers that, hey, we're going to bring you back, and then they stop picking up their call, their phone calls and,
Right.
and whatnot, and hey, send me an email, and then they don't respond. And so I'm going into this week, quite frankly, negative, and I'm listening to JT tell one of the most incredible stories about faith and forgiveness. And part of my anger, like I said, I'm not a perfect person. I directed at God and just going, how could you do this to me? Me,
Mm,
um, and I sat there embarrassed and ashamed of myself,
mm,
going, you're blaming him and you're blaming everyone for these things that you don't have. But you know what you do have? You have a wife at home that's pregnant with 3 kids, that is manning the fort so you can go to Atlanta for 3 days and do these seminars and listen. You have a wife who's at home taking care of 2 dogs right now, taking care of the house, even pregnant, remodeling our bathroom because
she
super
does the
mom.
remodeling too.
Yes, I
Super wife.
it put
Super wife.
puts me to shame with with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys where I'm sitting at Lowe's and I'm looking at the things and I'm just going, I have no idea how any of this works. Meanwhile, she's got like 10 new projects in her head. Like, oh yeah, I could do this and this and this and this and this and this. And
That's funny.
when it's done, it looks amazing. And I'm thinking about how, you know, the times I sit on my phone when it's like, my kids might be right there in front of me, and it's like, man, put that phone down because you're going to blink and they're going to be graduating college. And
Hmm. Hmm.
and my my dad even said something like this to me a while ago, and it hit hard. He goes, if you're lucky, and I don't know how many people are out there letting their kids listen to this, and it's not dirty, I'm just going to cover your kids' ears. He goes, if you're lucky, each one of your kids get to have 9 Christmases where they think Santa's real.
Mm.
put it like that. So for each kid, Santa's real 9 times.
Right.
And once he's not, he's not. You
And
know what I
once he's
mean?
not, you don't know a lot, Daddy, until they turn 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
And
not gonna listen to you.
yeah. And it was just, it was one of those things. I sat and I listened to his story, and I sat and listened to other people's stories, and just went, and to myself internally went, shame on you.
Mhm.
You have so much to be grateful for right now. And I'm not going to come home, and I'm not going to pretend like I came home and just went like, oh, life is just wonderful. Um, I still got, something happens, it's a little grievance. You know, I still kind of moan about it and I still gripe about it. But then I found myself after doing that just going, man, things are good.
You know
Life
what
is
it is,
good.
Dan? Sometimes we, as comedian, when you're in the entertainment industry, you always have this big goal that this is what I want to
Yeah.
do, and that's what's possible. And you have the gifting that you go, you know what, I can do this. And a lot of times, and so in our path to get there, we when we see these holes, we always focus on lack. Why don't I have that? Why is they're doing that and I'm not? I should have been here. I should have got this. Why am I not where I believe I should be? And it just frustrates us. And that's why we're always on the phone trying, okay, did someone call? Oh, I don't want to miss it. If someone wants to book me, I want to be ready because this is
Yeah.
where it should. And that's what it is. And it's frustrating to our spouses. It's frustrating sometimes to our kids. And I'm sure your wife knows, like, okay, sometimes we have to, by faith, take the phone and put it away for a couple hours. Right
Yeah.
now, this is my time with my kids, and this is what I do. See, I do something which is very interesting, and I don't know if people, it just, I still have it. Yeah, I have it right here. And because you're, as a comedian, you have so many responsibilities. So what you do is I always like, okay, like today, I put this out.
Mm.
I'm a father for the next 2 hours. Nothing else matters. And then I have, I'm a public relation guy. So what I'm going to do is, that's my time for the next 2 hours to just try to market, not call for book, and just market. I'm a husband here for 2 hours. I'm a student of comedy. This is my time to
Yeah.
study. And we think all we do in our career is just to get more booking, get more booking, get more work, get more work. Yeah, that's important. But sometimes when you're working on your career, when you're working on getting better, but also if my wife is happy and my kids are happy, because I think we all go that we work with guilt. We live with guilt. We're feeling guilty. I should be with my kids. And when you're
Yeah.
with your kids, I should be on stage. When you're on stage, oh, I should be home. When you're on the road, staying in a hotel at night, but why am I here? I could be with my wife and my kids. Is this worth? So I know exactly what you're saying, and you're not alone in this. So thank God for a wife that keeps you, grounded. What would be your dream? What would be, if a genie came to you and said, Dan Brown, I want to give you your dream, what would it be?
It would be to have enough of a fan base
Hmm.
to where I am making a great living doing stand up, being able to give back to those who have helped me
Hmm.
do it. Um, like I don't, not to say I don't want stadiums of people, but like the stadium comedian has never been like an actual goal. Like it's been to create a fan base, to make people laugh, and to forget about the unpleasantries of life. And because I'm somebody, I come from, a background, I have depression, anxiety, anger, um, pretty sure bipolar. That wasn't something that was really much look back in 37 now. I mean, it's one of those things where more and more things about bipolarness are coming out.
Coming out,
So
right?
it's one of those things where I think I do have it, but I've never been diagnosed. So
Don't
I just
worry.
kind of keep it. But it's one of those things where it's I know what it is to hurt and to just
To be heard.
sit there and just be sad, to for days, to for no reason at all. You're just, man, today just sucks. And to
Mm,
be just somebody for some, just to be somebody for some, to be something for somebody to go, hey, things might suck, but this is okay for a while. Like, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
this is a good distraction for an hour or so. Um, I want to be. I never being a preacher kind of person. I don't do any kind of gospel in my
mm.
act.
And your tongue. Yeah.
But I want to be that person that looks at, that the audience member goes, hey, I remember feeling like that. Like
Right.
and I relate to this guy. Like I see
Right.
this guy, and at the end of the day, just for them to be like, hey, this guy's trying his best, and he not it's not 100% self-deprecating humor, but
Right.
it's enough to where it's, I don't mind being the butt of my own jokes, kind of thing. Just kind of be like, hey, things are going to be okay. I want to give that feeling that things are going to be okay.
You know what, Dan? I get up every morning, and this is something really helped me every morning before put my feet on the ground on the from the bed. I thank God for 10 things. Like there is 10 things I can thank God for every day, every morning. Thank you that I'm alive. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my kids. Thank you. I live, in a home. I have food. I'm not worried about where's the next meal going to come from. I'm I'm thankful, Lord, that I'm doing what I love to do. I mean, even if you're doing it part time or something, you're still doing what you love to do. You're going on stage, bringing joy to people, making them laugh,
Yeah.
and that. But the best thing that helped me is my walk with the Lord every single day. Before I do anything else, in the morning, I have my quiet time with God, with reading the Bible, and just when you know there's a God that loves you, He blessed you with a wife, blessed you with children that many people don't have that privilege.
Yeah.
I do a lot of events with singles, and it's just sometimes it's hard for single people. They don't have anyone to talk to when they come home from an exciting thing. Oh, you finish a great show, you come home, and you're, honey, I did this. They don't have that. We do. They don't have kids to go, oh man, one day when I get older, they're gonna be visiting and they're gonna be doing this, and we're gonna have the Thanksgiving gonna be huge. They don't have that. We do. A lot of people would have
Yeah.
loved to go on stage and do comedy. Would have loved. They die with that dream. Like, I think I would have loved to do 5 minutes of comedy. We get to do it every week. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying, you know what? It's knowing there's a God that cares about you and loves you, and in his due time he can give you the desires of your heart. And what your dream is not it's a goal. It's so easy. You probably, I can guarantee you, with your sense of humor and your dedication, in the next 5 years, you can be in a place where people just come to see you whenever you put a tour together in a theater, and they pay, and you'll make enough, good money to where you don't have to, your kids don't have to worry about it. That's not far from you. Doing stadiums, I've done stadiums. Stadiums are for ego, not anything. It's not a great performance. You can't go on you know how you go on automatic pilot and you're just enjoying the show, and every joke is going. You can't do that in a stadium. You gotta give it the time. You gotta
Yeah.
slow down. You gotta be patient. It's like, okay, let it get to the back of the stadium, and then comes back as the laughter comes. So it's not the best, but it's good for ego. But other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first, thank you for those kind words, and um, for verbalizing that so perfectly, about what you're grateful for, and what you do during your day. And in this short time that we've talked so far, I feel like I've learned a lot. And just the cards that you showed me for 2 hours, I'm dad. I'm public relations. I don't think it seems so easy, but for some people it's just so difficult to where again it's you just make this simple card, and I don't think
And you
many
put it
people
in
think
front of
about
you.
doing
So
stuff,
you, yeah,
and you
you, so your
put it right
mind is
there,
not,
and yeah, and because part of my issue is that I have all these goals, and I have 24 hours in a day. And then after you do this, it comes out to like maybe 4 hours, let's just say, hypothetically.
yeah,
And I'm trying to
right,
accomplish 100 goals in 4 hours when realistically, you should just be trying to accomplish a couple of those things incrementally. And then after
right.
you accomplish it, you're going to realize that it's so much easier to accomplish other things too. Like if it's, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in front of my laptop because I have a Google Doc of all these different ideas that I'm working on or different ideas that I have. Like I want to do a podcast on, comedy. I want to do a podcast on movies. I want to do a podcast on wrestling, on superheroes. And by the time you realize that, hey, I have 5 podcast ideas, that, that itself is a full-time job.
Right,
you know, let,
right,
let's realistically, instead of trying to put efforts into 5 podcasts, let's get one started. you know,
right.
I have all these ideas for scripts, and I've got like 10 different movie ideas right now. How about I just focus on making one movie?
One,
let's let's
right,
let's make the one, finish it, and then move on to the next one, and then let's see how much easier, and more clear things start to become. And when it comes to life, and is as important as comedy is to me, one of the things, especially from CCA, but something I've kind of had this realization because, like, I talk about in my set how much I'm happily married and I love being married and that
and
kind
that's
of stuff.
beautiful. That's
But the
beautiful.
one thing I make sure I say is that I mention it doesn't mean that it's easy.
No,
Just because I like being married and just because I like being dad doesn't mean that it's an easy job for me. And I talk about how my kids talk back to me, or how I screwed this thing up or that thing up, and then my wife's day goes from oh, I only have 3 things to do to, oh honey, I screwed up 7, so now you have 10 things to to do,
yeah,
because you married somebody who has the thought process of a gerbil, right right in front of you. And
right. Dan, it just I always think the older the kids get, the easier, the more time you'll have to do your career.
yeah,
So you got to keep that in mind. You go, okay, it's like you're driving a car, and that car, as long as you have gas in the car, which is time with your wife and your kids, and time with your God, you do the maintenance stuff. I always look at it as a big pie. Okay, did I spend enough time with my wife? Did I spend enough time with my kids? Did I spend enough time writing comedy? Did I spend enough time trying to get, gigs? Did I marketing? Did I spend enough time physically working out and all that? So if I can get that, but then the whole picture is, did I spend enough time with God? Because that's
yeah,
on top of the whole pie is God. So I always look at that balance. Once a week, I have a piece of paper. I'm not trying to show you, but
no,
maybe it will
please.
help someone. And I have a piece of paper that said, okay, how was my week? Career wise, what did I do? Financial, what did I do? Spiritual, what did I do? Health and diet, growth, family, writing and shaping my act. And I write, did I spend time? And if I go 2 weeks and I'm looking, this is empty and this is empty. Ooh, I better give more time to this one now. And that just keeps your balance in life. When I started, all I wanted to do is just comedy, just comedy, just comedy. But then
Yeah,
no, I have a wife, I have kids, I have to do that. And trust me, when you are feeling balanced with your wife, your kids, your writing and stuff, when you go on stage, man, you hit it harder because your mind is focused on your show, and you will get work because you're not stressed out. And trust me, I've been doing this 33 years full time. I have not starved. I've had holes. I've had times where I had a lot of shows. I had huge shows with 40,000 people, and I had shows where there was three, four people in the audience. In all of it, I mean, you go, God is faithful, who will always take care of us. He allowed you to do comedy. He's going to take care of it. Amen. So what is next for you? What is
Yeah,
next? What's
and
next?
I
What's
mean
the next
it's
step
one of
for
those.
you?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think my net's lagging.
No, you're not. Oh, it's flagging, but I can see you. I still talk to you. Can you
I,
hear me?
okay, we're good.
We're good.
Hear you now.
So, okay, let me close with this question. How what advice do you give someone that wants to go to pursue what they love to do, but then they still have a full-time job, they still have a wife that works, and they still have three kids under 10 or 10? What kind of advice do you give them? How do you manage that?
The first bit of advice, and it also will wrap into the comedy advice I give to new comics again when they ask. But the first bit of advice for somebody like me, like if somebody just started, like day one, oh hey, I'm 37, I got a full time job, I'm married, I have kids, I got dogs, I got a mortgage, all this stuff. The first thing I will tell them is it's okay to first you just got to get yourself started. So you're a long way from Madison Square Garden. and and quite frankly, at this early, you just know all you want to do is stand up. You don't even know what your voice is yet. And
Mm.
when you do this, you might not. I'll never forget, like the first comedian I talked to, like when I was 24 or 25, one of the comedians I was talking to at an open mic was a really good friend of mine. And this person's doing that. It's like nobody wants to treat this like a career. And I forgot how much older he was than me. And he was like, well, this isn't going to be a career for me. And
Right.
it uh, never once crossed my mind that somebody would be doing this just because to them it's their softball.
Right.
Hey, I go out a couple nights a week. It's fun. I get to hang out with some buddies. And but then I go to work on Monday, or I got my kids hockey on Saturday, or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's fine. So for somebody who's doing it, the first thing I tell them is you have to get on stage and try it out first to
Right.
see if it's actually for you. And if it's for you, great. If it's not, it's. I'll give a comparison to Jose Canseco in his book Juiced that he explained was that baseball is a great sport because there's something for everybody. If you're not good at fielding the ball, well, then there's the outfield. If you're not good at that, maybe you can pitch. If you can't do that, maybe you can hit. If you can't do that, go sit in the stands and cheer because
Yeah.
every year, millions of people sit in the stands and cheer. And, if you're a comedian and maybe performing isn't for you, okay, maybe give writing a try. Writing's free as long as you have a pen
Right.
and some paper. You write all you want. You got a laptop, get Google Docs, that's free. Just make a, a large Google Doc of whatever you want. If that's not
Right.
it, you know, there's local shows going on all over the place. There's it's free to go on YouTube and create a profile and just give that thumbs up to a comedian that you find, or comment ha 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 really funny, and
Right.
that you're probably thinking, oh well, what's my one like and my one comment going to do? A lot.
Oh, a
it
lot
it
to a
does
comedian.
a
Yes.
lot. And that's why, like, I respond to negative comments, but I don't try to be snappy with them or anything. I just go, sorry to hear you didn't like it, thanks for giving it a shot, hope you find someone you do like.
Right.
Because it shows that I'm responding to comments. The
Right.
algorithm doesn't care if it's a good comment or bad comment. They just see it's a comment. And so it shows I'm interacting. It's helping my numbers. It's helping my engagement. And also, I hope it does this. I hope it that the person on the other side of the screen realizes, oh, this is a person on the other side.
Right.
Words hurt. Words can hurt, you know. Just because this person acted